Okay, just for some housekeeping as a reminder, and this is chat box, so those of you who can't hear should be able to see in the chat. You want to make sure that you stay connected, and that's the toll-free number, access code for this webinar. If you want to submit a question, please do so by submitting one through the chat window. So today is our first or inaugural federal agency funding opportunity webinar, and for our first series, we're going to start with the National Science Foundation. And to give presentations today will be Dr. Francisco and Dr. Rockcliffe. Dr. Francisco is a program director and a director for biological sciences in the Division of Molecular and Cellular Biology. And Dr. Rockcliffe is the program director in the Directorate for Mathematical and Physical Sciences in the Division of Chemistry. My name is Andre Porter, and I am the Science Policy Analyst at ASBMB, and we also have Dr. Andrew Stothard, who is the Science Policy Fellow here at ASBMB. So, to not belabor the point, I'll pass it over to you two, Dr. Francisco and Dr. Rockcliffe.
All right, thank you. This is Wilson Francisco speaking. I'm a program director, as Andre said, in the Molecular and Cellular Biosciences Division of NSF. We are under the Director for Biological Sciences. And what I would like to do is first start with a background on the 4 clusters of MCB and sort of the type of research that is funded by each one of those clusters, followed by, then I'll pass the baton to David Rockcliffe, who will tell you a little bit about chemistry, in particularly the Chemistry of Life Processes program that he runs. And then we're going to conclude with some funding mechanisms that may be applicable to some of the listeners today. So in MCB, NCB supports fundamental or basic research in various areas of biology, but mostly at the molecular, subcellular, and cellular levels. There are other divisions in bio which fund research at the organismal system, that's integrated organismal systems. We have another division that funds research more in ecology, and that's the Division of Environmental Biology. And finally, we have another division that supports personnel as well as equipment, and that's the Division of Biological Infrastructure. So because maybe our division is more relevant to our participants, I will describe the 4 programs that we have in MCB. The first one is the one that I'm a program director for, is molecular biophysics. This cluster supports fundamental research in biophysical and biochemical research. The main focus of the research that support is those that address relationship between structure, function, and dynamics of all different types of biomolecules, from proteins, nucleic acids, lipids, etc. And one of the things that you will see throughout all our clusters is that we give priority for projects that support, that combine both experimental as well as theoretical or computational approaches. The next cluster program that we have is called Cellular Dynamics and Function, and here I'm listed some of the research priorities of that cluster. They support research that have predictive understanding of the behavior of cells through the integration, just like as in molecular biophysics, that have modeling and experimentation. They do not look only at the biomolecules, but they look more at the cell or the different organelles, and they're interested in studies that look at the origin, evolution, and function of all these different compartments, including the cell organelles and microcompartments. The third of our programs in MCB is Kinetic Mechanism. In this mechanism, in this cluster or program, they are interested in research that study gene expression, including epigenetics, RNA expression, chromosomal dynamics, DNA replication, repair, recombination, etc., as well as evolution of genes and genomes. Finally, the last of our programs is sort of more larger one, which supports research in the areas of systems and synthetic biology. They're looking more at the big system, so system level, again, theory-driven analysis of regulation as well as metabolic networks, and projects that involve synthetic biology that address fundamental biological questions. Some of those are included here in this transparency. MCB, so these are the 4 programs that are supported by MCB. One of the things that is going to be very clear from David's presentation is that we collaborate very closely, not only with the Directorate for Math and Physical Sciences, with the programs of chemistry as well as physics. One program that unfortunately we'll not be describing today, but may be relevant to some of you, is the physics of living systems. That is in the Division of Physics. So that's another program that you may want to be, you may want to look into. Those who are doing physical, using physics to study biological problems. So now I'm going to pass the baton to David, who will tell you about his program.
Okay, thank you, Wilson. And okay, so what we have here, I'm sorry, I should introduce myself. I am David Rockcliffe, and I'm a program director in the Division of Chemistry, and I am a former colleague of Wilson in the Division of Molecular and Cellular Biosciences. So I had some experience in the Division of Molecular and Cellular Biosciences before coming to the Division of Chemistry, and I have been here for 3 years, and my official title here is the program lead for the Chemistry of Life Processes program. So this chart that you see in front of you is a chart of how the Division of Chemistry is composed. About 6-7 years ago, the Chemistry Division underwent a realignment, and these are the programs that were come up with. These are the programs that were created, I should say, for the Division of Chemistry. And the one that will be most pertinent to you is the Chemistry of Life Processes. Although I would like to bring your attention to other programs in the Division of Chemistry that might be related to what some of you may be doing. And one of them is the program of the Theory, Model, and Computational Chemistry. And that program deals with methods development in all of chemistry. So if you have a project that would bear chemical innovation, and it has a strong biological component, and you are developing mathematical methods or computational methods, then you would, I would advise you to take a look at that program. Otherwise, the program that is most pertinent to what you might be doing is the Chemistry of Life Processes. There are other programs that we relate to in other divisions, and as Wilson says, we work very closely with the Molecular and Cellular Biosciences, and There are also programs in engineering, CBET, and also biomaterials in the division of materials science in the Directorate for Mathematical and Physical Sciences. So this is a description. These are just key points about the Chemistry of Life Processes program. And this program supports fundamental studies of biomolecules or biological systems at the interface of chemistry and biology. However, in the Chemistry of Life Processes program, it's abbreviated CLP, we look for the primary contributions in innovations to be related to the chemistry aspects of the process of the project. In general, the program supports studies that investigate how the structure, dynamics, interactions, as well as reaction thermodynamics and mechanisms, how all of that is integrated to produce the kind of chemistry that is characteristic or intrinsic to the biological system. In chemistry, we have a taxonomy, what we call a taxonomy, and this just gives an idea of the sort of the range of entities that we deal with. And here you could see that there are 5 areas of taxonomy listed here: metallobiochemistry, enzyme mechanisms in general, molecular recognition, chemical biology, and biomolecular design and engineering. And I should explain, for chemical biology, what we mean is it's the type of investigation where you are using innovations in chemistry in order to interrogate cellular processes. In other words, for example, if you're making chemical probes for interrogating chemical processes, that we usually categorize as chemical biology. Now, there are some programs that we'd like to bring your attention to them, and these are NSF-wide programs, so you could apply for these in any division in NSF. And the first is Research in Undergraduate Institutions, or RUI. It's called a solicitation, and the solicitation usually has special rules that are beyond what is required for submitting a basic proposal, or what is called an unsolicited proposal at NSF. Now, these RUI proposals, they are meant for predominantly undergraduate institutions. You have to be certified as a PUI, primarily undergraduate institution, in order for you to be eligible for that. And usually your Office of Sponsored Research would be able to give you advice on your institution's certification. But what the certification usually requires that you have less than 10 PhDs offered per year. I don't recall exactly what the numbers are, but they are specified on the website, on the NSF website. Now, for these proposals, the scope of your research is not expected to be the same as if you're at an R1 institution. We expect that the scope of your work will be somewhat less, because people who are PIs who are at primarily undergraduate institutions are usually working with undergraduates mainly. So nevertheless, we do expect you to have the quality of research that that would make your proposal eligible for funding. So we don't, whereas we accept a little reduction in the scope of your work relative to the proposals from the R1 institutions, but we still expect the quality of the research to be very good, okay? And for these proposals, as for other proposals, significant preliminary data are expected. You need to show some indication that you can do the work that you want to do. And the typical award is usually for a duration of 3 years. And more information could be found in the solicitation on the website. Then we have the Faculty Early Career Development Award, which supports non-tenured faculty to become the next generation of academic leaders. And for these, this is another example of a solicitation. And the objective here is for you to be able to build yourself into a teacher as well as a scholar. And one of the important elements of this solicitation is that you need to have support, a strong letter of support from the chair of your department. The proposals that are submitted to this solicitation need to emphasize projects that effectively integrate teaching and research. That is a very important aspect of the proposal that reviewers are requested to comment on explicitly. Okay? And again, your research requires substantial preliminary data. Typical awards all awards are for 5 years, and with a minimum funding of $100,000 per year. That is for the Biological Sciences Directorate, but other directorates you can actually request less than $100,000. But in the Biological Sciences Directorate, there is a minimum of $100,000 per year. Okay. So submissions to MCB and CLP, proposals to MCB must be submitted to the core program solicitation. All proposals submitted to MCB have to be submitted to the solicitation. 13510, if you are submitting to MCB, please ensure you submit to the solicitation. Proposals to CLP have to be submitted to the program. The program has an element number of 09-6883, so make sure that you select that if you're submitting to CLP. The deadlines for MCB is November 15th of each year, and for CLP there is what we call a submission window, which goes from October 1st to October 31st each year. Okay. Now, I can't advance this.
No, that's it.
That's it. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we will be glad to answer any questions, and I see that there's some questions coming up. So, Andre, how would you like to do this?
Whichever works for you. I can read them off to you. You guys can read them off. You should be able to see them in the questions.
Yes. I think I can answer the first one. What constitutes transformative research in terms of MCB? And person asked for some examples. So transformative research, of course, by the nature of it, is very difficult to define. The one thing that we can look at is research that will have a significant impact in the field, which is another way to say is research that is incremental is definitely not transformative. So we're trying to stay away from incremental research, of course, because in the funding situation that we have, where the percent success rate is close between 15 and 20%, is very difficult to justify funding research that is considered incremental. Some of the questions that they ask is, does it deal with new molecules, new methodologies? Yeah, all of them apply, depending on the type of research. One thing that is going to be very important for MCB and for those submitting proposals for MCB, when we place a proposal in a particular program, is based on the research question that the PI would like to answer. So it's not based on the methodology. So not all PIs that are using biophysical methods will need to apply to molecular biophysics. It's just sort of, if in molecular biophysics, for example, we're interested in studies that cover structure, function, and dynamics. So we look at them based on the type of research that are done. For people who are developing new methodologies or equipment, most of that will go through the Division of Biological Infrastructure, unless the equipment or the methodology is being developed to answer a particular scientific question that is relevant to the division. I hope that answered that question. Then the next one.
There is one above it, Wilson, that asks, what is the exact mission of
Yes, I'm sorry, I missed that one. So the exact mission of NCB can be summarized in our first transparency, which is research that supports research in fundamental basic research, and designed to allow the understanding of complex living systems at the molecular, subcellular, and cellular levels. That is basically the mission of MCB. David, I think the next one may be for you.
One question. What if one has a project based on chemical catalysis to explain either molecular biophysics or genetic mechanisms?
Oh, yeah.
And this, I will take a stab of this, and Wilson, I don't know if you might want to add to what I have to say. But Wilson was just saying that for MCB, first of all, this is an example of a project that might be on the interface between chemistry and MCB, because evidently it's a biological catalyst that is being spoken of here. And what in chemistry, what we usually look for is what does your project help us to understand in terms of what is occurring mechanistically in your system? In other words, how is this system operating, or in what way is your system operating in order to perform the kind of chemistry that is characteristic to the system, right? And if, when we look at your project, we feel that there is advancement in this area, then we would categorize it as a chemistry program, whereas in MCB, what is of greater importance there is what are the questions that are pertinent to the biology of the system you are considering. I don't know if you want to add to that, Wilson.
Yeah, I think that's basically it. So as I mentioned, it's not the techniques that are using or the questions that you're asking. If they're relevant to one of the clusters, that's where they would be submitted. So the next one is can you explain how proposals that cross across multiple programs and divisions are handled? This is a very important question here, and what I suggest is that the PI or prospective PI will submit a one-page abstract or summary to the program where he or she would like to see if the project fits. And why is that important? Because once a proposal is submitted to a particular division, cannot be transferred. So if a proposal is submitted to MCB, will have to stay in MCB. Unfortunately, if that proposal does not fit the solicitation, it may be returned without review. So if you're planning on submitting a proposal for the chemistry of life processes, has to be submitted there. If a proposal wants to be submitted to MCB, has to be submitted to us. We are not allowed now to move proposals among different divisions as well directorates. And the reason for that is because different programs have different deadlines. And in addition, for example, the Division of Integrative Organismal Systems, they go through pre-proposals. So that makes it impossible for us to transfer a proposal that was submitted to our program that may be best fit on that division. However, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a very strong interaction among MCB, chemistry, and physics. So if a proposal cross boundaries, and once we agree to review that proposal, we then invite program directors from other programs who may also be interested in that type of research. So that is something that is done internally. David, the next one. David?
Okay. Do career submissions require a tenure-track position? The answer to that question is yes, according to the solicitation. You have to be in a in a tenure track or equivalent position in order for you to be eligible for a career award.
Then we missed one. Are you more or less competitive if you include an educational component? Well, that's a very difficult question to answer as it was posted. We should have mentioned that all proposals at NSF are reviewed based on two criteria. The first one is intellectual merit, so what that type of research will benefit, what will contribute to our understanding, and as well as broader impacts. Broader impacts are very, of course, broadly defined, how that includes training of students, as well as how that type of research will contribute to the benefit of the society as a whole. RUI proposals are required to have an RUI statement, which is well described in the solicitation, and of course, as almost every other proposal, they're expecting the training of students, particularly those of diverse populations, are also included there. So that is expected from every proposal. What the educational component is very specific to that of a career proposal, which requires the integration of both research and education. That is a particular component of the career proposal. But every proposal is required to also cover broader impacts, which also include training, education, and etc.
Okay. The next question I have here is, I heard that RUI proposals were accepted at any time. Do they still need to conform to the MCB or CLP deadlines? And the answer to that is yes. According to the solicitation, they should be submitted according to the submission guidelines for each division where you are targeting your proposal. So, for example, for CLP, we have a submission window from the 1st to the 31st of October. It means that if you are considering submitting an RUI proposal, your proposal should be submitted during that submission window. And if you are submitting to MCB, they have a deadline of November 15th annually, and so you should be submitting your proposal by November 15th. Okay.
So this is a question based on the language that we use. Is there a quantifiable difference between significant and substantial preliminary data? No, that's just the use of the same word in two different contexts, both for the career as almost every proposal. You have to convince the reviewers that the type of research that is proposed can be done at with the resources that are available, and the best way to provide that information is by providing preliminary data, which is again just to convince the reviewers that the expertise as well as the equipment that is necessary to conduct that type of research is available.
Okay. So the next question, also on RUI proposals, what sort of broader impacts are expected? This is a question that we grapple with every year, because the panels, our review panels, usually have to be given some measure of guidance on this. So every proposal submitted to the NSF, no matter which division, which directorate, it must address the intellectual merit and the broader impact, okay? So the intellectual merit has to do with the advancement of the scientific area. The broader impact has to do with the benefit to society, okay? Now, for RUI proposals are special in that, as Wilson just mentioned, you are required to submit up to 5 pages of statement that where you would describe the impact on the institution of your particular project. And you could, in this statement, you could be as broad as possible. You could talk about the impact on training of undergraduate students. You could talk about any kind of infrastructural gains that the university would have, as a result of your engaging in this project. But when you are thinking of your broader impact, the broader impact should be a plan. Just like the intellectual merit is a plan, the broader impact is a plan. And the plan would normally have some kind of goal. Now, it's okay for you to include elements of your institutional impact statement in your broader impact. So, for example, if in your institutional impact statement you talk about the benefits that the university would accrue through the training of undergraduates, you could have as your broader impact some plan, a training plan that has to do with the training of undergraduates. But it's important to remember here that the broader impact it's a plan. It's a plan that you have to execute in the same way you execute a plan in your intellectual merit. You execute the plan for a broader impact. It should have a goal, and some supporting activities described that would help the reviewer to understand how you will achieve the goals you set out to achieve in your broader impact.
Before taking the next question, I will also add that assessment is becoming very important for the broader impact activities. It's not only proposing to do some activities, it's always beneficial to assess those activities so that you know that they are making a difference.
Yeah. Yes, and thanks, Wilson. Yeah.
The next question is, do you recommend reaching out to a PO before submitting a career award? As I mentioned earlier, I recommend that for everyone who's proposing to submit a proposal. The best thing is, before taking the time to write a proposal, it's very important that you know that the proposal will be sent to a program that the research fits. So I suggest sending a one-page summary to the program director of the program that you believe that your research will fit, and the program director will be able to tell you, yes, this type of research fits well in our program, or no, it doesn't. Maybe you want to look into these other programs. So it's very, very important for those new PIs who are planning on submitting a new idea or a new project to NSF.
Okay. The next question, are there any funds for postdoc research proposing something like early career faculty? There is the Graduate Research Fellowship Program, okay, and it's abbreviated GRFP. That is something that I encourage you to look into. And also, Wilson, in the Biosciences Directorate, there is a Minority Graduate Fellowship Program. And I don't know if it still exists. Do you?
Yeah, so in bio, every year, all depending on the years where the program is not run, they have a postdoctoral fellowship that have two tracks. One is based on a particular theme that they have chosen because they need more scientists in a particular area, and that also has a track for members of underrepresented groups. That is run through the Division of Biological Infrastructure, so I suggest that a postdoc or a postdoc-to-be start looking into that program. But no, there's no postdoctoral research or fellowships in MCB or in chemistry.
Yeah.
So it's true for MCB that you should not mention disease states, for example, cancer. This is sort of something that is very important. According to the grant proposal guide of NSF, NSF does not support research that have in the area of health. That's why we have another larger agency up in Bethesda. But as a broader impact, of course, you're doing the basic research that may lead to, a disease. But curing the disease or diagnosing the disease should not be the primary goal of the research. NSF funds basic research. The only exception at NSF is bioengineering.
Yeah. And if I may add to that, the chemistry approach, the CLP approach to it is of course, what Wilson says. You can't be studying the etiology of a disease, or you can't be looking at curing a disease, developing drugs, or that sort of thing. But you may use a disease model in order to interrogate your system. So, for example, if you are studying some aspect of molecular machines and you want to look at a form of HIV reverse transcriptase or something like that, it is okay for you to use that model, but it is also imperative for you to justify why that model is the best model for studying the particular phenomenon that you are looking at. Okay.
So I'll take the next one. For the RU and MCB grants, do we need to obtain approval before submitting complete applications? No, the institution can submit the application by the deadline to us or to any of the other programs, so no prior permission is necessary. For RUI proposal, it's very important that the institution qualifies as an PUI, or primarily undergraduate institution, and I suggest consulting with the sponsor projects office to see if your institution qualifies as a primarily undergraduate institution. But no, those that are applying for the RUI solicitation apply directly to the program at the particular deadline.
Okay, the next question. I have a project studying the mechanisms of small molecules with amyloid proteins. Does it fit the CLP? And what I would encourage you to do is to send me a one-page description of what your project is, and if you could include the goal of the program and of the project and the specific aims, that would be good also. Now, the way that I approach these inquiries, I look for what you are, or we look, in CLP, we look for what you are trying to achieve. What are you trying to understand in this project? That is very important for us to know in order for us to make the decision as to whether or not this project would be suitable for review in chemistry. So if you are just looking at a basic interaction, it may not be evident to us if the understanding in chemistry is going to be advanced in a way that we are looking for in the CLP program. So if you, when you are submitting your one-page descriptions to us, make sure that it is evident in your write-up what you are trying to understand or what you're trying to achieve in the project.
You can take the next one, although I would like to, before David answers that question, one of the best tools that we have at NSF is on the NSF website, www.nsf.gov, and that is the award search logarithm that we have. So there's when you go to the page of NSF, look under awards, and then you can do award search. What I suggest to new investigators, or even those that are being funded through NSF before, is to type in some keywords and sort of the type of research that you're proposing on doing, and it will tell you if there are any awards that NSF has supported in that area, but most importantly, it tells you what division has funded that research. And that gives you an idea of what type of research that particular division or where your type of research will fit. So that's important. So David, you can take the next one about the chemical structure and dynamics.
Yes. Okay, the next question, does chemical structure, dynamics, and mechanisms group, that's a program in the chemistry division, also fund biomolecular structure research? Yeah, and the answer is basically yes. But again, I will emphasize that we have to get a sense of what you're trying to understand. Because, for example, the CSDM program, as it's called, it would fund the kind of research. Suppose you are looking at the metallocenter of a protein and you are studying the various spectroscopic levels that are associated with the protein. Okay, then something like that might be suitable for review in the CSDM program, right? But if you are studying the functioning of the protein, then that might be more suitable for CLP. So it's all a matter of what you're trying to understand. And so this is why I was emphasizing before that it's very important that you communicate that to us in your inquiries.
I'll take the next one. I am in a research institute without teaching responsibility. Are there mechanisms that allow me to apply for support? Well, that is not decided by NSF. If your institution allows you to apply for grants, then yes, you are able to apply for grants at NSF. As long as you're doing research that is pertinent to one of our programs. For those who do not have teaching responsibilities, in some divisions consider training of undergraduate students a very important broader impact. So, that is something that, when you do not have teaching responsibilities, those need to be, the broader impacts become very important, and you may have to find ways in which you can then comply with the broader impacts aspect of the proposal. Then the next one, as we already mentioned, yes, it is a good idea to send a one-page summary of the research that you're proposing and doing to a particular program director, and they will tell you if that particular proposal or project will fit in the scope of the program.
Okay, the next one, are MCB/Chem generally interested in methods for large-scale reanalysis of big data, or is there a strong bias towards hypothesis-driven research with new experimental data? What is your recommended strategy for big data algorithms? Okay, I could take the first step, the chem angle of this. Right now, all across NSF, there is a big push to have the research community in general heightened about data. A lot of data are produced, in various ways and in various projects, and there are a lot of data out there. And what we are thinking at this point in time is that maybe we have reached the point where we would like to be able to develop the methodologies for treating this data or for manipulating it in such a way that we could that would result in scientific advancement. And as a matter of fact, right now in the Division of Chemistry, we have DCL, what is called a Dear Colleague letter that we sent out to the community, asking for you to submit your ideas on the ways that we can treat these data that are out there in order to bring about advancement in fundamental chemistry. Okay? Now, what we normally look for, whether it is associated with big data or not, is what is the significance of your output? if you are doing a reanalysis, but the reanalysis is going to show us that something was really terribly wrong the way that we were doing it before, and this is your new way is the way that it ought to be done, then that might be regarded as a significant output. But if you are doing a reanalysis that would give only an incremental advancement in the particular scientific area, then a proposal like that will not fare well. But I will reiterate for emphasis that at this point in time, there is an effort in the division of chemistry as a whole to sensitize the community, or to get the community thinking about how we could use the data, all the data that's out there, how we could put it all together and analyze it in a way that would result in fundamental advancement or advancement of fundamental knowledge in the chemistry. And I would encourage you to look at the chemistry website for the Dear Colleague letter. It is abbreviated D3SC. Yeah.
For the sake of time, I suggest that the person sends a one-page description of the project and see if it is suitable. But because it's very difficult to understand from the sentence, but if the person is developing new algorithms, there are some divisions at NSF that as part of their portfolio. Very quickly here on the eligibility for career proposals, it's very important for you to consult the solicitation, but in short, or like in the past, there's no limit when the person started the faculty position. The person needs to be on a tenure track on tenure by the time the award is made. So, for example, if the person got tenure during the time where the proposal was reviewed, then that person is not eligible anymore because that person is already tenured. But those specifics can be found in the solicitation. And also take the last question. It's about the timeline. Most decisions at NSF, 75% of the decisions are made within 6 months of the deadline where the proposal was submitted. So, so you should expect to hear within 6 months of that time. 75% of the announcements are made within that time frame.
There's one other question regarding preliminary data. Does it need to be published, or how does number of publications affect funding likelihood? Now, I would say the preliminary data does not need to be published. Your preliminary data should demonstrate that this is a doable project. So if, for example, you want to do an NMR study on some kind of biomolecule, you have to demonstrate at least that molecule is amenable to an NMR study. Okay, so your preliminary data gives the reviewers a sense, or gives the reviewers confidence that, yeah, this project could be done according to the methodology that is proposed in your project. So publications are a good way of demonstrating that a project is doable, and that the reviewing panels normally regarded as strong preliminary data, but it is not absolutely necessary in your proposal.
I agree as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that was our last question. You guys have jumped through 22 questions, so you guys have done a great job. I want to thank you both for joining us today. And spending time with us and answering the questions that we've had. As some follow-up things, this webinar is recorded, so we'll post the recording of this webinar. Please, for the attendees, submit answers to our survey. We want to know what you guys would like to see in further webinars and what you thought went well and didn't go well in this one. Thank you, Dr. Rockcliffe and Dr. Francisco.
Andrew, thank you for organizing this. And for those who are still in the line, we are here to serve the community, so please feel free to contact us with any questions that you may have.
Sure.
We may not be able to give you the answer, but we'll find someone who would. So thank you very much.
And I would echo what Wilson says, and thanks for the opportunity to do this.
Thank you both, and we will be tapping you again for a possible follow-up webinar.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Please stand by.